Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Scott Lee here with Terrago. I'm joined on the phone and on the Zoom session by John Mueller, who is also located in Atlanta, and Madison Basil, who helped organize all of this and helped run logistics for us. And she's located out in California. As you see, I only have just one real content slide for you. We're going to try to be respectful of everyone's time and just run through this one slide just to tell you what we're going to show you today. And then I'm going to kind of drive through with John actually running the demonstration on the capabilities we're going to show you. So we just released version 2.5.1 in mid-January with a couple of enhancements and based off of requests from customers, as well as some other small little bugs. Obviously, ArcGIS Pro is relatively new. Our GeoPDF publisher for ArcGIS Pro is relatively new. So still getting inside of the code and working and making enhancements based specifically on some feature requests. Compatibility with ArcGIS Pro 2.9.1 is inherent with 2.5.1. Some of the things that we've done is originally we only had the support for the light theme. Now we support both light and dark modes. And I'm not sure if many people have tried to experiment with that, but the dark mode seems to be a little easier on the eyes when you're staring at your screen all day. We've done some optimization with our file size compression techniques. So we should be receiving smaller outputs now in this latest version. And a couple of the major things that we're really going to show you today are the map series export. We have some GeoPDF composer customers that are on the session. So we're going to show you how now we support those for batch export of larger areas. We all know that file size tends to be an issue. So especially trying to get it to a disadvantaged user or someone with limited bandwidth. So we have some techniques, or John's going to show us some of the ways to create that map series export and produce the best possible product. We did have a bug for managed subtypes that we've resolved as well in this release. And probably one of the nicer things that it's still evolving, but we have support for 3D scenes. So you can export a 3D scene out of ArcGIS Pro now. It's not as dynamic or as from a visualization perspective and being able to move the model around inside of Adobe, but you can send a 3D representation of a specific area out in a 2D export. Because of the nature of the way that we're doing that export, we have not embedded the geo inside of the 3D scene. But obviously we have colleagues over at Esri, and one of my colleagues asked about support for those 3D scenes. So we were able to get that into the release. That's an ever evolving capability, but something that John's going to show you as well here today. The next slide just has my contact information. I'm pretty sure most people on the call have my contact information, but feel free to reach out to me directly. It's my email, obviously my cell phone number. All right, John, if you want to go ahead and jump into Pro and the Denver area. John is actually attending the GeoWeek conference next week in Denver, Colorado. So he's been pulling together a data set of Denver. So we're going to go through the process. You see he has a lot of vector content that's there available, and he is using the latest version of our software. I'm still getting completely familiar with ArcGIS Pro, and John is our resident GIS expert. So one of the first things that you need to be able to do is identify the size of a manageable file. There's a large data set here, and so you don't want to embed all of those layers and all of those attributes into such a large area like Denver. File size just gets too large. So leveraging map series, which is formerly the data-driven pages capability in ArcGIS Desktop, we can slice that area of interest into smaller, more manageable areas. Again, you won't be exporting the whole data set. We will be exporting the whole data set, but it'll be in these individual map sheets. So I think John specified, yeah, it's a 1 to 6,000 scale for his grid. And if you can show what the entire area looks like for us, John, the whole area, the whole Denver area, I think you have 9 map sheets.
Yeah, so the whole area covers so we continue to support basically the data-driven pages, which is now part of Arc Pro, and they call it a map series. So the cool thing about map series is it can utilize polygons and other types of features, but then you can also utilize bookmarks as a series as well. So right now this grid, like Scott had mentioned, is broken up into a 6K scale. So as you when you create your series, you basically just tell it, let me find it here, there it is. So when I create my series, I tell it what layer in the data layers that I want to use. If there is a particular name or field that I'm interested in utilizing for some dynamic text that's in the layout, it utilizes that as well. And then there's some other items in here as far as scale. So for this scale, like I said, I'm gonna utilize the 1 to 6,000, and I'm gonna hit OK.
Perfect, perfect. So it generated those tiles, all of those individual tiles. So now he has that area into 9 specific map sheets now. So inside of the export function, inside of the Terrago pull down or the Terrago plugin to Arcgis Pro, you still have a lot of the same capabilities when you're doing the export. You can change the image resolution if you wanted to something a little bit smaller, and it will export a little bit quicker, make your file size a little bit smaller. All of those preferences are still available. You can prepin and append pages to the file as well. Check out which layers you actually want. You have your layers preferences or your layers dialog box there to what information you actually want to include. Then you can identify which attributes you want to include. Now we're still holding on to the GeoPackage capability, which again is an emerging standard through OGC, and a lot of our defense and intelligence customers have adopted, as well as several of our commercial customers as well. So we're still exporting that as an attachment. The GeoPackage has an attachment to each one of the PDFs. I think during the last webinar, we talked about pop-ups. So if you have hyperlinks or images, things like that, we support those pop-ups. John's not including any of those in there. Again, it's time element. So let's see here. The base map. So now when John selects the export, this is a new dialog. So it's going to give you a bunch of different options on how you want to export it. If you want to, you can just choose to export a couple of tiles. So in the event that you have that some things have not changed in certain map sheets, you don't need to really update those GeoPDF products. Or you could just 1 through 6, like he says there. He has all of the pages. When you do the export, you can export them all into one single PDF file. Now your file size is going to get larger, of course. But in this instance, we export multiple single PDF files, because I'm going to show you how to aggregate these if you're unfamiliar with that way. Your output folder, and then there's a base name for each one of those files. So if you remember in the map series, there was the national grid. John you can input the prefix to the file name. So John can change it to anything that he wants to there. I don't think, are you actually going to export these for us, John? Or I think you already have them exported, don't you?
It takes some time. I was going to go ahead and just use the items that I've already exported.
Okay, yeah. So then you just hit OK, and it runs through each one of the map sheets. Now, during the export process, it actually runs through each one of the tiles twice. So just be aware of that. If you think that something is wrong, it's not. It's just when it runs through the export, it hits each one of those files twice. So just be aware of that. Here, John has exported all of the data. So now what do I do? He exported the data and he exported that overview. Now, what do I do with those individual tiles? Why am I exporting just these individual tiles? Well, in this instance, I've asked John to just run through real quick how you aggregate all of these tiles into something that is more manageable. So that's the capability inside of ArcGIS Pro for map series. Inside of Acrobat, he's going to hit the pull down for the composer toolbar and create a map book. So we have a wizard to roll through that process. It's going to create a map book. This is really wordy here, but he's going to create a map book from existing GeoPDF files. He's going to browse to the location of all of those GeoPDFs. And here they are. Hit open. So it's going to select all those files, hit next, and then it asks for where the index map is. And he did the export of that index sheet right there in the same folder. Hit open on that. And then where is he going to output those? So inside the map book folder, he's going to select that folder and hit finish. And you'll see that it just runs through that process pretty quick. It's not creating any GeoPDF products. It's just aggregating existing GeoPDF products into one comprehensive digital atlas. So the map book was created successfully. We don't need to look at the log. And then here is the output product. And of course, when you select, you have all of the map sheets there. And when you select one of those files, like he has in the middle, it directly takes him to that individual map sheet. Now you'll also see that there are hyperlinks on each side. So we automatically put those hyperlinks on the left, the right, the west, the east, the north, south, and we also put them in the corners too. So you can go diagonally. Everything happens in the corner of a map. We understand that. So being able to easily navigate through. Again, all of the layers are there. If you want to select the layer tab, all of the layers that he chose to export are available. Everything is organized. He did make some preferences, set up some preferences during the export on what layers are going to be visible immediately. And the other thing, all of the attributes from the export, again, are available in the geo package. So with the identify tool, he can select on an individual feature and choose one of those footprints if he wants to. I'm not sure what attributes you actually included in the PDF, John, so I'm sorry. But if you hit the attachment there, on the attachment, yeah, see there are all the attributes there. Here's the geo package, of course, for the map frames. So again, having access to all of those individual, you can imagine how many attributes are actually there inside of all of those building footprints, but those look like individual residences. So that's just real quick on why you would use the map series capability inside of ArcGIS Pro, and then how to aggregate all of that information together. All right, thanks, John. The next thing that we wanted to show you was the 3D scene export. So John has some elevation data that he has pulled into the 3D environment in ArcGIS Pro. And then he added a raster to give an element of, I guess, realism to the area of interest. And you see the horizon on the top. I think everybody is still, I know I am still getting acquainted with navigation and the way to move around inside of the scene itself. But have the elevation data. I think there you go. There are different ways to navigate through but it does a pretty good job, I think, of being able to give some sort of scene visualization. Quite simple in this export. We export again from the layout, just to make sure everyone understands. We export from the layout, and then your TerraGo tools will be available. And just quite simply hit the export. It's rather simple. Name the file, and then just save it and select export. And then it'll give you some sort of visualization of a specific area of interest. Happens pretty quick. We're not embedding the geo inside of the PDF right now, but we did have the request to be able to export this individual scene. After that finishes here in just a few seconds, there it is. So again, you don't have the ability to turn the model and things like that right now, but you are able to actually visualize an area of interest. So, excuse me, that's really what we wanted to just show to you today. If you have any questions, obviously my contact information is on that PowerPoint slide there. Give me a call, shoot me an email. If I can't answer the questions for you, I'll be happy to coordinate with a technical person here, a more technical person than myself, and we'll get those questions answered for you. We kept it pretty quick and short. TerraGo is going to be at a couple of events next week. Like I said, John and my colleague Joe will be at GeoWeek in Denver, and then myself and CEO Dave will be at the DGI conference in London. So hopefully we can get together at one of those events. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it, and look forward to hearing from you.